To meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Joe. Happy to be here.
Me too. So before we get into your good work, I want to know 5 years ago, this pandemic was really starting to rage. It threw us all into so many different scenarios that were unexpected. Ultimately, how did you live through that time period and how has it reverberated into life today?
So many changes, excuse me, that came out of the pandemic. First one was this new business called STRATA Originals.
Yeah.
So we had a 18-year marketing agency, and at that point, as most of our we were done, right? All of our clients left us, and we did a webinar for an organization called YPO that I'm a member of. And coming out of that webinar, four people said, "I need help with personal branding." We went, "We don't even have a product for that." So it was kind of a wake up call and said, okay, we need to build something that way. So it spawned this new business. And the other thing it spawned was I'm an older guy, so I've been around a long time, run a number of businesses. And I had the old belief that you had to have people in office to do the job. We're all remote. Our entire business is virtual.
Yeah.
And I had to make the shift. And I made the shift and realized it's just about trust and process.
Yeah.
So we did that. Our entire team is distributed. We have business all around the world, and all stemmed from that crappy few years that we dealt with that. So
Yeah.
positives came out of it.
Well, it's weird to think that there was this big question as to whether or not people could be remote before the pandemic. And
Correct.
I'm in technology by day, so I knew absolutely. I mean, there was the thing called VPN before we got to this really more secure place, but it's like it's always been possible, but do we really want to do it? And it seems like especially in medicine with telehealth, like
Yeah.
it just makes sense to not have to drive 30 or 40 minutes to an appointment, spend 5, 10 minutes in there after you wait for 30 minutes to have
Right.
another, right? So just get on your phone, get on your tablet, get on your computer. We'll knock it out and move on with our lives.
And the other part of that that was a great lesson for me is we have a lot of young parents.
Yeah.
They have to get their kids off to school. Imagine having to do that and then drive another 40 minutes to get into the office and do the same. So their lives are less stressful,
Yep.
relatively speaking,
Yep.
and they're happier. And so you don't have to pay them as much either
Yep.
because they now work from home and they have less expenses and becomes more familial. As long as you have the processes and the technology in place to make sure the work's getting done,
Yeah.
which we do, it's been a great outcome for me overall.
Absolutely. So let's get into the heart and soul, which you do on a daily basis here in 2025. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of kids, sixth graders. It's career day. The kid in the back of the room is like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
I help people tell their story to the world. That's what I do. Because even at 6 years old, you have a story. You have a dog, you have a cat, you have friends, you go to school, you play sports. That is not critical today, but when you get to high school and you get to university and then you get to your first job, people are going to ask a question, what's Jeremy like? And if they say good things about you, it's because you've done good things. You're either really smart or you're really athletic or whatever it is. That becomes really important when you're older because what we often say is your personal brand, which is what we do, shows up in the room before you do,
Yeah.
and it stays after you leave. So,
Yeah.
what are people saying about you, Jeremy? If they're saying good things, then you've got a good personal brand. If they're not saying good things, maybe you need to work on it. So, that's what I would say would be the how I would talk to a 6-year-old about that.
So, what did you want to be when you were in grade school? What was your dream life?
I wanted to be a professional athlete, like a lot of kids.
Yeah.
Um, and but I didn't know what sport, and I didn't care what sport at the time. So I played everything that most young kids do. And then this will tell you how insane I was. So at 18 years old, I had never played football, like NFL football. And so I said it's time to learn that. And I started at 18 years old in a community college, and I played football and then played 5 years university and went to a couple of pro camps right after that and didn't make it and recognized, well, at 5'9", 185 pounds, you had to have some really special athletic skills. And I had great skills, but not good enough for the pros. But it took me right to that line where I said, I can now see what I thought my dream was, and it wasn't what it was
Yeah.
because it was a number now. Unless you're a superstar, which is 0.01% of any industry, you're going to be one of the workers. If I made it, I was going to be one of the workers. And that meant you were literally a number. Like, oh, 27, come here, not Alan, come here.
Yeah,
And I went, I don't know if that's what I wanted.
yeah,
So it was great to go to that spot, but then to back off and go, it's not really what I wanted because I was never going to be the star.
yeah.
So it was a great lesson for me, and I draw off it every day. But that was my dream, and maybe in my next life I can do that. But this life, no.
What's the most intense sports event that you've been to? The best game you've ever seen in your life?
Wow, that's a heck of the most intense one I've ever been
Best
to.
energy, just the whole thing.
You're gonna laugh because it's the least intense the feeling, but the Masters. It's I have that little
Oh,
flag in the back.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But it was not the intensity that you would think about in a sporting event where there's just this hype and physicality.
yeah,
There was a religious, spiritual experience that I think, and I went with my wife Anne Marie, and she's not a golfer, and she'd go back in a heartbeat. So when I talk about intensity, it would be a different type of intensity. It was the intensity of the emotional experience of being in a place that was hallowed grounds in a lot of ways,
yeah.
even if you're not a golfer. So to me, I remember that one round of golf, we were there for 12 hours. We could have been there for 20. It
Wow.
was that kind of a feeling.
Yeah.
And so I would call that as the most intense experience in that way.
That's interesting. Very interesting. I love that answer. The one of the weird, so I grew up being a sports fan. I wanted to get into sports broadcasting, so I've been in sports my whole life. And I have kids and we go to sports all the time. One of the most mind-blowing things that I ever saw, and I didn't expect it, was I had a boss that was a big fan of NASCAR and he gave me
Yeah.
tickets. And I
Yeah.
went out, we just built the speedway out here in Kansas, and I could not believe the sound that was coming from it. It was the loudest sound. You had earmuffs and all of that, but just the way it would rumble through you and the thought that a human being was in something going that fast, that
Right.
tight around a track was like, wow, it was wild. Because you don't get that on TV. You don't get
No.
that rumble and that feeling, but when you're there, it's crazy.
I had a similar experience with an F1 race that I went to in Montreal.
Yeah.
And the fun part was walking to the track and hearing it in the distance. And then you get there, and to your point, you feel it in your
Oh,
body. You're going,
wow. Yeah, it's
very cool.
insane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very, yeah.
So, what were the foundational elements in your childhood, the seeds that were planted into you that grew into this profession, that grew into you helping people be better storytellers and ultimately better humans?
I will have to give credit to my mom, believe it or not. So she gave me the gift of vulnerability and love, right? So leading with my heart. And I've always done that in my life. Now, I had the sports side of it was the toughen me up part, because as you know, as any athlete, you go through stuff, right? As an athlete. And so you learn resilience and all the things that are necessary to be a great leader. But I've always led with my heart, and I got that gift from my mom. And that carries me through everything, through my family life, through my business life, through everything. And today, when you think about personal branding, people think about, well, it's just content development. You know what we've discovered? There's transformations that people go through to get to a place where they understand their gifts.
Yeah,
So, and when you understand your gifts and recognize you have a responsibility to share it with the world, the transformation happens in the humans that we work with, that they go, oh, this is more than me.
yeah,
So the work that we do, we have a saying that it's not about your ego and it's not about you. It's about discovering your uniqueness and sharing it in the service of others.
yeah,
The work that you do, Joe, is in the service of others.
yeah,
Right? It has little to do with your business. It has to do with, I want to bring stories
yeah,
of humans together to help other humans know they're not alone and there's some good stuff in the world and there's some good people in the world.
yeah,
So we do that as individuals. We help those executives do that. And the transformation is remarkable from fear to triumph.
yeah,
It's so cool. So that's the foundation that got me there. And now I'm in what I'll call a loving, passionate business
yeah.
that we make a difference every day. And it's so cool.
Yeah. You know, the one thing about business is that it's akin to sports. There's such good stories. The Phoenix Rising or From Rags to Riches, that kind of a thing. Like I think about Phil Knight courting
Yeah.
Michael Jordan, right? And then the FedEx CEO that went to Vegas and gambled and saved his company, and just Steve Jobs and Wozniak coming together. What's one
Yeah.
of your favorite business narratives? The favorite, companies, favorite stories? Do you have one?
I think I have one that I experienced as a leader. And it's not a positive one, but out of negative comes learning.
Yeah,
And I joined a NASDAQ listed IT security company, and we're talking 30 years ago now. And NASDAQ was a bit of the Wild West back then.
yeah,
And I had never been leading a public company before. I made an assumption that the 10Ks and all the reporting were exactly what was supposed to happen. The truth was they can be manipulated, or they could be manipulated back then. And I was very naive as a young leader. I was always focused on the people side of things, and then the CFO and the CEO would focus on the public markets. But the impact of not asking that extra question has plagued me today. So now I ask the extra question. So from a transformational point of view, as a leader, I looked at that and said, well, we're just going to report what we do.
yeah,
It was positioning, and it was market to try to generate more share sales, and then you have people doing fraud, and because when you have your eye on a goal that is just driven by share value, you're not doing the right things for your customers or your business,
yeah,
because it's quarterly stuff. So I learned that, and I said, first of all, I never want to be part of a public company again,
yeah,
because you can't do the right things. But it taught me as a leader what appears to be normal. Ask more questions.
yeah.
So to me, that was transformational as a leader. And I had to fire, 200 people out of a 375 person company, and, sell off offices, all of that after I discovered this nasty stuff that wasn't being done right. So that
Wow.
was transformational. Yeah.
Yeah. So who's been a hero? Who's been an inspiration for you in your life?
It's an athlete, and it's Walter Payton, for all the reasons that you would expect. You know, Smart, intelligent, incredible athlete, great teammate. And he just represented everything that I thought an athlete should be. He unfortunately died very young, as you know, from liver disease. But his name Sweetness was really cool. How can you be as tough as that, but yet be so smooth? And so and I don't have a lot of heroes. I pull heroism from lots of different places, but he's one that I just watched him, and I could watch him every single day for the rest of my life.
I love Chicago, and I feel so bad for the Bears because they almost got Mahomes when that draft happened.
That's right. That guy got fired after that.
They were so close.
I know.
So let me ask you this: if you could meet one good business mind, business leader that exists in the world today, spend a little time with them, glean a little bit about who they are that might help you on your journey, who would that be?
You know who I like? I like Richard Branson a lot, and
Yeah,
that's probably overdone a little bit, but he's done so many things in his life, from mobility to travel, airlines and cruises and the like. And he's done it with humility and grace. And he had a quote once, I think if you don't take care of your people, they'll be being taken care of in other places. In other words, train them, spend money on them, and if they leave you, well, they would have left you anyways, but they won't leave you if you do a good job caring for them.
yeah,
And I've always believed that as an employer, that if someone ever wants to leave and it's part of their journey, then I'm there to support them to leave us. But I hope that their experience in our company was positive, and they grew and they learned. And when I look through that and I see what Richard did, and I look at what we've done over the last 25 years, we've launched some careers, and it's so wonderful to see somebody leading one of the leading marketing agencies in the world who worked for us for 2 years. I'm going, like,
yeah,
that's great, right? Because it's a journey, right? We're all on a journey. Work's a game. It's a thing we do,
yeah.
but it's not who we are.
Right,
It's
right.
not who we are. It's part of who we are. But two people get wrapped up with it's part of the work we do in personal branding is, well, what I do is who I am. I said, no, 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 no. That's what you do. That's going to change.
Yeah, for
But who
sure.
you are is forever. So you got to treat people right. You got to care about people. You have to serve people. And then what you do is going to change. I've had 5 careers.
Yeah.
They've all been great. This one's the most exciting because I'm making the most difference in the world. But people get hung up with that as an identifier, and I just try to move them away from that.
You know,
Go right.
when I was in high school and we got that career speaker in, they told us at that point you would have between 7 to 12,
Wow.
5 to 10 career changes, and we are all like, "What are you talking about?" But it's totally true. I mean, it's like they were just setting us up for what was going to happen because that's just the reality. Those old days of the 50s and 60s where someone stayed in, like my dad was a salesman his whole life, but
Yeah.
all of this stuff changes with modern times, you know?
Just did a talk in New York 2 weeks ago to 22 to 28-year-olds. And it's the first time I've talked to that age group about personal branding. So it kind of ties to your little 6-year-old story, but and it was phenomenal when I asked one of the questions. I said, what are you known for? They struggled with that question
Wow.
big time. And it's probably normal because if I was 22, I don't know what I would have been known for either. I
Yeah.
do now. But what the exercise was interesting enough because it got them thinking about what their gifts are. And they all had gifts, by the way. They came away realizing, oh my God, I'm in art. Or someone, I'll give you one quick example. One guy, he says, well, I love doing being a DJ. I said, so let's talk through that. Let's peel the onion back. So why do you love it? Oh, when people get up and they're dancing to what I've done, and it just gives me joy. I said, so let's think about what the outcome of you love music, you're sharing your love of music so that other people can be happy. That can extrapolate to anything you do in your life.
Yeah.
You happen to be a DJ, if you stop there, you're a record spinner, not record spinner. That's an old, old reference, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so, and then he went, oh, and I said, so you're an engineer. Let's take the same steps to figure out why you became an engineer. And oh, by the way, if you are an engineer, recognize many startup CEOs started as engineers
Yeah.
because the thinking processes are very applicable to start. I never knew that. So again, their worlds were opening up just by asking better questions
Yep.
about themselves and their gifts. And that's the biggest opportunity that people have is start thinking about you so you can serve others, as I said earlier, but start thinking about you because you have a gift.
Yeah.
Find it.
You know, I wanted to get into sports broadcasting, and my internship, which was pretty cool, was doing pre and post game production for the Kansas City Royals. So I would just take questions into on air talent. I remember at one point, the engineer of the show came by and I said DJ, and he was like, "Don't say that again. We're on air personalities." And I was like, "Oh, sorry. I had no idea." You know, it's like you get hairpinned in this world of having all these titles getting rearranged, and it's like it's weird, just like you were saying with that title of record spinner or whatever.
So
It's
at the end of the day, we're all humans. We think we have to be perfect. We
yeah,
don't.
no,
We just have to be ourselves, be authentic. I often get the question sometimes people say, how do I become authentic? I said, you are.
yeah,
Just be you. Don't
uh-huh,
be funny if you're not funny. Don't be an intellect. Try to be an intellect if you're not an intellect. If you have ADHD, that's part of your beauty. Just let it shine.
yeah.
You'll find your tribe. And that's just be you.
That's it. You know, I always feel bad for CEOs, everyone that I've worked for, because everyone postures and they get
Yeah.
nice and they start doing this thing where they want to look good. And it's like that has to be fatiguing for the CEO to just not have a human moment, to have everybody snap to the minute you walk in the room, and I
Yeah.
always wonder how they manage that. But I think they're in their position for a reason. They can see through it.
They can, but what I think we get to a place where, and I've been in those roles before, and I try to get to a place where, listen, I have a role. My role is CEO. So sometimes I got to make tough decisions.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've got to be tough. Sometimes I've got to not never be mean, but I have to be difficult. I have to be tough. I can always be human.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what I advise some of my folks, because I've seen them, sometimes they'll talk to me, and because I've been around a lot, they're wonderful and engaging and warm. And then I watch them in front of their staff and they change. And I'm going, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Why don't you be the same guy that you're in front of me?
Hmm.
Because that's lovable and that's vulnerable and that's wonderful. Your team will appreciate that. And oh, by the way, when the decision comes to you, you go, because it happens in my company. I have, kind of, it feels like a family. So, yeah, we're going here and this is why. And you promised to do that. You didn't do it 3 times. The fourth time is going to be a problem
Yeah.
because that's your role. So you put your hat on when you have to have the authority piece, but you should be a leader that pulls people to you and invites people to you. It's back to service, it's servant leadership, right? Servant leadership, not about you. It's about clearing the deck so your people can grow
Yeah.
because they grow when you give them the opportunity to grow. If you tell them what to do every day, that's not good. But if you give them the goals and share that with them and they start achieving and you give them the high fives, that goes further than anything else, as long as it's authentic and sincere.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
part of the challenge is they think they have to wear different hats and they don't.
Yeah. So, the one thing that's key about a healthy business mindset is balance in life between your family, your friends, your own soul, and the business that you're involved with. How important has that been in your career to find that balance?
So I think it's a really interesting word, and I hate the word life balance because I think that's impossible to have life work-life balance, but you have to know what's important to you in priority. So I have it written here. I have it's HLW. It's health, love, and wealth. Those are the three things that I focus on at my age now. Health, because I can't love if I'm sick. So I need to be healthy for me and for the people around me so I can provide and be the right person. Love, because love is what makes the world go around with all the BS in the world. If we focus back on loving each other as humans, then you're giving, and that's beautiful. And wealth, well, to have wealth is to be able to give to others and to help others. So I have those three letters in front of me every single day, and those are my priorities, and I make deposits in them every single day.
Yeah.
And so I know I do yoga 5 to 6 days a week. That's my health thing. And then my love thing is I'm always thinking about my spouse and my kids and those concentric circle of friends. And I'll sometimes just text them and say, just miss you. It's been a while. Yeah, how you doing? It doesn't mean man, woman, whatever. Hey, buddy, I love you. You're great. Hope you're doing well. Like that stuff is so cool
Yeah.
because when you do that, what happens? You get it all back.
Hmm. Yeah.
You get it all back because you now manifest other people that are like that.
Yeah.
And then that fills your world and that fills your cup.
So let me ask you this. Dealing with business can be serious, and helping people reframe who they are can also be serious. So let's say you walk into a room, everybody that you've dealt with in a business sense throughout your career, you swim through that sea of people, you get up to a podium, and you can tell them one fun thing, one fun story, one fun anecdote that would humanize you in a different light to that room. What would you tell that room of people?
Well, it's something I've learned recently. Have you ever overwhelmed anybody? My name is Alan, and I'm an overwhelmer. I would do that because what I've learned, Joe, is that I just hired a guy who's just like me.
Yeah.
We could talk for 50 days on the same process and topic and never get full and be happy. But people aren't like that.
Right.
People have to absorb the key things. And so what I've learned about myself is I've got to recognize my brain works very process driven.
Yeah.
I'm very creative, but very process driven. And I can't do that to others.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would kind of make a joke of it like I was in AA.
Yeah.
So I'm a reformed overwhelmer, and I'm sure people would see themselves in that too.
Yeah.
A lot of leaders actually are the opposite. They're poor communicators because they're an ADHD or dyslexic or something. And so my business partner is full on ADHD, so I live that every single day.
Yeah.
And we're complete opposites. So it's like the poles sometimes are pushing against each other
Yeah.
because I'm trying to do one thing and her brain's going, but I just need one.
Yeah.
You give me two, I'm overwhelmed. I'm going, two?
Yeah.
I got nine
Yeah.
going on
Right.
right
Easy.
now.
Yeah.
But you have to now adapt to recognize that people aren't always like you.
Yeah.
And that was the big lesson for me.
I agree. So, of everything that you've done, accomplished, and evolved into, what are you the proudest of?
It's cliche, but I've been married 40 years, and I've got two kids that I don't care what they did for a living. Are they good people? Good people.
Yeah.
They're polite, they're warm, people love them. That I'll take that to my grave as the number one thing I've done because it falls back into what's most important is if I believe most important thing is love, then I better practice that
Yep.
in every way that I have. So I'm sorry it's cliche, but it's true for me. And I'm lucky because I don't have drama in the relationships I have. Zero drama with the people in my life. Zero drama in business because that's just business.
Yeah.
Zero with the people in my life.
Yeah. Totally. No, that's a great answer. So, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends. clients, colleagues, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
It's one theme for me. I lead with my heart, and I am pretty driven. And what I mean by driven is my my buddy was telling me this morning, he says, "Do you ever celebrate?" I said, "I'm always happy, but I'm never content."
Yeah.
So I'm always driving. So people would say I'm relentless. People have used that word to me. So my heart is how I lead, but I'm relentless in terms of the pursuit of what's important. And that's with if it's somebody who's a prospect that has said they want to do it, I'm going to be relentless until they do it.
Yeah.
Like so one of them the other day said, we can put it off. I said, no, we're not putting it off. We're going to do it. We're going to book the meeting. We're going to do it right now. Okay. Well, yeah, I appreciate you doing that because I know it's good for them, not good for me. It's the right thing for them. They need the push. They need that thing. So it's always thinking about others, leading that way, but pursuing the things that are important and for the business and for my life. And I'm yeah, I've been told relentless is the word that they would use, and resilient
Yeah.
would be a good word. Yeah.
Totally. So let's say we get off the call, time machine pulls up in front of your house, and you can go anywhere in the history of sports and see one game, one event. Where are you going?
My God.
That's a
One
lot of
game.
stuff.
What? That's a big one. You know, let me think through that. Is it going to be golf again? Is it going to be golf? It's probably going to be because I love golf. I
Yeah.
would probably want to watch Tiger winning the US Open by 15 shots.
That
I
would be
probably would want to. That would be cool.
I was just thinking that before I asked that. I was thinking about Tiger and to feel that intensity, especially when he was in that real bubble in the beginning of being.
Correct.
Did you ever? It's gone around. It's viral. There was a clip. There was a show called That's Incredible that was on ABC when I was
Yeah,
younger,
I remember that show.
and he was on there when he was 8 with his dad. And they were
Yeah.
just like, "We got this little kid, Tiger Woods," and little did they know he was going to take over the world. But at that point in his life, they were showing him play the game, and it was like, "Wow, this kid's going to be good." And little did we know he
We
was going
did.
to. Yeah,
Even when we do these workshops, and one of the pictures I put up is of Tiger, and I always ask the people in the group, tell me your perception of him based on just the image, and they give the athlete professional, and then somebody will always say cheater, adulterer, addict. So it shows you that as human beings, he's beloved, but not by everybody,
right.
right?
Yeah,
So that's the reaction that people, they don't know him. Their perception of him is based on what they've seen. And he grew up in front of us.
yeah.
Good, bad, and ugly.
My hero, and I actually met him, thankfully, all the way through childhood was Dwight Gooden. And he was
Oh,
the
wow.
guy that faltered, and he was the guy that had issues. But I will tell you this, they say don't meet your hero. Doc Gooden was
Oh,
one of the nicest human
really?
beings.
Oh, isn't that sweet?
Wonderful soul. You could feel it. And he was so nice. I still can't believe it happened, but it was just like, it's like we are so ready to be in cancel culture mode, right? So ready to pass judgment. So you just got to be careful. So if anyone wants to reach out, learn more, any of the good business in your world, where should they go?
Well, LinkedIn's probably the best place to start.
Okay.
So just Alan McLaren on LinkedIn, you'll find me. I have a YouTube channel. Our business is strataoriginals.com. I encourage you just join and learn. Just kind of go learn. There's a
Yeah.
lot to learn about this personal branding stuff. It's not as simple as just posting on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So go learn about it. Go check out the videos, go learn. And then if you want to reach out and learn more, then we're here to help.
I love it. Alan, this has been wonderful. Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time and story. This has been
I
wonderful.
enjoyed it. Very, very comfortable conversation. Thanks, man.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Okay.
man. Hello, friends. Joe Dimino here. I just wanted to let you know that after 30 years or so, I have finally released my first book of poetry through the mighty Spartan Press here in Kansas City, Missouri. As the creator and host of both Neon Jazz Radio and the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino podcast, along with being a visual artist, I'm ready to embark on a new adventure and want you to be a part of it. You can get a copy online via Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and actually on the streets in Kansas City at the great Prospero's bookstore off 39th Street. You can also visit joedimino.com for links to the book, to more poetry, and everything in my world, including paintings. Thanks for all of the love and support over the years, and please dig the words.